immobilization without fear leads to, with another person, it's intimacy. Just visualize a baby conforming on the breast or the chest of the mother. You see the two bodies kind of like fitting together, lovers with each other. There is the notion that you're safe enough to be in the arms of another without being vigilant. That's really, I view that as kind of the goal in life, that our mandate is to be safe enough with another to both feel their presence, to enable us to give up our defenses, but also to support them so they can give up theirs.
Right. So that's pretty hard to do if you're in a trauma response, if you're immobilized, if you're in fight or flight.
Well, you can't do it because your body is saying it can't give up its defenses. It can't give up its energy shields. It can't give that up. It has to keep you alive, because for many people who have experienced or survived trauma, the violation of trust was the critical issue in the traumatic event. So if their bodies start to feel safe and relaxed in your presence, it triggers an association, unconscious or conscious, doesn't matter. The body will just react and become self-protective and defensive. But now those cues of safety and accessibility are now matched in the template, in the memories, with a vulnerability and injury.
And that explains the disconnection.
Yeah. There's both, the fact that you can see this occurring, witness it, is also provides a portal of optimistic outcome, because now you can move people in and out of those states for very short periods of time to literally perform what I call neural exercises. So they start experiencing their body in this vulnerable state, but they're not really vulnerable, as long as they have the agency to get out of it. And this is where breathing patterns or breathing exercises are helpful, because slow exhalations put you into that accessible, calmer, more vagal state, and longer inhalations basically energize you to mobilize. So you can go in with the knowledge that you have a toolkit to get out. And this becomes, this is how a lot of the breathing exercises, and these have long traditions, have been used to, in a sense, increase resilience.
So I wanted to play that because I wasn't sure if everyone had got my email. Not everyone would have, and been able to see that. And this is also what I've based our work on today. Stephen Porges, for anyone who's not familiar with him, generated the polyvagal theory 20 some years ago, and it's become very popular amongst trauma therapists and other people. He does some amazing, amazing work around the nervous system and feeling safer. And one of his taglines has become one of mine for years: safety is the treatment. So when we feel safe, then that's how we heal. That's how we're feeling safe enough to connect with other people. And so then the question is, how do we encourage our nervous system to feel safe? And there are lots of ways that we can do that. So one of the quotes that he had in that little clip was, "Immobilization with another person without fear is intimacy." And these are images of people who are being immobilized, and they're not afraid. One of the keys to the whole nervous system is that we don't figure this out in our conscious mind. This is our nervous system. This is our body. And if we know safety in our body, then we know safety. And if we don't, then nothing that we do in our mind, our thinking brain, is going to help that a whole lot. This is something we have to experience directly. Another thing I wanted to pick up out of what he said was that a violation of trust, or a betrayal of trust, is the critical issue. So when we're traumatized, the one picture there of the two girls talking about another girl, we have these friendships where we felt trust in the friendship. Sometimes we have families where we feel included. We have, childhood friendships, adult friendships, and sometimes, and oftentimes, we're betrayed in that. The cue of safety that he was talking about there, being matched in our template with vulnerability and injury. So the cue of safety in this example is when we're in a little pack of friends and we feel connected and included and we have fun and we're in that. And then once there's a betrayal, then the next time we want to get involved with a group of friends, that template of betrayal and injury, of vulnerability is there. So that's something that then creates this, the walls go up, our defenses go up. We're not really able to let people in completely because we're not convinced that we're going to be safe with them. And that this, again, is a nervous system response. So he referred, in the larger interview, he referred to Star Trek and putting our shields up and how we can't be intimate when our body won't give up its defenses. So if somebody, comes up and gives us a hug and we're nervous about that, or we don't feel safe with them, then we're not going to be able to reciprocate. We're not going to be able to enjoy that connection either. So he talked about, in the full interview, he talked about our goal in life is to feel safe enough with another to feel their presence. That would indicate that we're not disconnected, to feel their presence, to give up our defenses, and that it's reciprocal, that we support them in doing the same. So that's something that's, each of these points are so important that if most of our energy is going into our defense mechanisms, then we're not able to really connect well with people and be intimate with people. And we feel more and more isolated. We feel less safe. And that in order to get to this place where we feel safe enough with another, that's a process that, when we're talking about people who've been traumatized, which, I think all of us have been in some ways, and some of us have been in big ways, then that's what we're talking about here, is how can we get to that point? And there are ways to do that. One of the things he talked about was the toolkit that, when we've been working with the polyvagal system, we're talking about the dorsal, which is the freeze response. So when we're really overwhelmed, we're going to go into a state of freeze. And when we feel like we have a little bit of agency to act, we're going to go into a fight or flight response, a sympathetic activation. And that when we're feeling trusted and connected, then we're in the ventral vagal, which is the higher level. Then that's when we really have that full access to our humanity, to connecting with other people, to our creativity and humor and play and our enthusiasm for life. All of that is more in the ventral vagal state, the higher level. It's kind of what makes us human, really. And so how can we, first of all, we have to acknowledge that we're going to go up and down that scale as human beings. We have responses to our experience. So we go up and down the scale. Sometimes we're in freeze, sometimes we're in fight or flight. We usually have a preference. Our nervous system has a preference based on what was most successful earlier in our life generally. But how can we really work with and accept, okay, I know I'm going to go up and down. I know I'm not always going to feel trusting and connected. And how can I recognize when that's happening? So I get some early warning signs. And how can I work with that then? So if I'm in freeze, I could do some longer inhalations, kind of more active, get kind of mobilized, come out of freeze. And if I'm in a state of agitation or hypervigilance, something like that, then I could use some long, slow exhalations, which calm the system. And both of those help to bring us back to center. Let's do some inquiry. So based on everything that we've just been looking at and thinking about, this structure is something that really works for some people and doesn't work for others. So if it doesn't work for you, just completely ignore it. But on the left, we have the beliefs that are conditioned by personal experience. On the right, we have freedom. So the way I sometimes work with this is I visualize kind of on the left side, outside of my body, but on the left side of my body, what are the beliefs that I have? So in this case, it could be people that I've trusted have betrayed me. If I let down my defenses, I'll be hurt. And sometimes we get into catastrophic what if thinking, like I'm doomed to be alone and lonely for the rest of my life. So these are all beliefs that are conditioned by personal experience. And we're not making them wrong. We're not saying I shouldn't believe that. In fact, this is based on the evidence, skewed by the negativity bias in the brain for sure. But these are things that we know to be true because we've experienced them. And then we make some beliefs form because of that. So People I trusted had betrayed me is a statement of fact. I can't let down my defenses or I'll be hurt is kind of a next level belief from that. So those are conditioned beliefs. So if it's comfortable for you to work with this structure, you might kind of take a moment, kind of put that over there on the left side. What else is in that area? What are your beliefs around trusting other people? And sometimes we can feel like a darkness or a sludginess, or it feels kind of, to me, something like a swamp sometimes. It feels not free. It feels like this is conditioning. I'm kind of stuck. So we can, spend however long you want, kind of just adding in things there, what's on that side. And then coming over onto the right side, so the right side of my body, outside of my body again, but just on the right. Here's this freedom, and Stephen Porges talks about it as being safe enough in the arms of another to be vulnerable and trusting and allow them to be the same. This doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It can be any kind of a friendship, any kind of so that metaphorical arms, it's not necessarily that we're going to be physically immobilized and safe in the arms of someone else. It might be, especially now with COVID, it might not be that. But what does freedom feel like? The freedom to be yourself, to feel safe, to allow someone else to be safe, authentic, real. So tune into that for a moment. And we probably had relationships that felt like that. It might not have worked out forever, but at least for a time, we probably did feel that. So we know what that feels like. Or we could imagine what that feels like. And then the inquiry part of it is, what's holding us back? So here we have all these conditioned beliefs on the left side that are installed in our nervous system. It's part of that template he was talking about. And that's what's preventing us from being free. So the inquiry part, which we'll do for several minutes, it won't be probably long enough, but we'll get a start on it. What's the worst that will happen if I let down my defenses and trust someone? This is how our experience, our conditioned beliefs interfere with letting down our defenses and trusting someone. Or you might look at it from a different angle, and this is partly too where we really exercise our own agency. What resonates for you? Do you want to change that a little bit? Do you want to have something completely different? Another way to look at it is my wise, resilient adult self can take care of my hurt and vulnerable self. Because so many times we have defenses up at the level of what we really needed as a child when now we're an adult, and we can take care of ourselves in a different way. So I'm going to stop talking for a few minutes at least here. And if you want to write it down on paper, if you want to just kind of close your eyes or have your gaze soft and feel into that for yourself. Feel into the freedom. And what is it that's in the way? What is it that's preventing you from feeling safe enough in the arms of another? And stay really connected in your body. Notice your feet, your seat, your breath. And stay in the present moment. If memories or evidence are coming up from the past, notice that it's coming up as words or pictures. You could do some tapping. Just on your forehead, take your attention into the sound and sensation of the tapping. You could put it in a frame. Just remember that right now in this moment, you're safe. You're not back in the past. Stay connected with your body and breath in the present moment. And if you feel like you're kind of in a too intense situation, just come out of it. Look around the room again. Hold your hand. Bring yourself back. We can all do that. There's no right or wrong way to do inquiry. We're just looking to see what comes up. What is it that's in the way of this freedom? And how could I let that go? How could I keep bringing myself back to safety? And if you wanted to take a little pause, notice what's happening in your nervous system right now. Are you in fight or flight? Are you in freeze? Are you angry? Are you feeling kind of sluggish and shut down? How could you bring yourself back to a more balanced place if that's happening? You could open your eyes, look around. You could take some deep inhales and energize your body if you're in freeze. You could take some calmer, longer exhales if you're feeling like you're in fight flight. So it's good to take a break if you're feeling like you've kind of gone off to one side or the other. And then settle back into your body. Notice your breath. Let yourself relax and soften a bit. Come back to the inquiry. We'll stay with this for another couple of minutes. Notice where you're drawn, what it is you want to pay attention to right now. And then bring that to a close.